Hi parents, I'm James Evans and I'm here today with Director of Schools Jimmy Sullivan, and this is his Director's Report, which we have not done yet this semester. This is our first one, but we like to just do these every so often to keep parents updated about what's happening with our school board meetings and at the board level, and just anything that applies to parents and employees. So the first thing we want to jump out, the biggest thing our board's been talking about, Dr. Sullivan, is the building program. Can you explain a little bit what that means to parents?
Yeah, so I'm happy to do that. So we update our what we call a 5-year building plan every school year, but really what we're looking at is what is going to be funded this next school year. And so our school board has recently adopted a 5-year plan. Really first on the agenda is looking at 3 high school additions for Riverdale High School, Oakland High School, and Smyrna High School. And so that was discussed quite a bit last year, but we're now moving into the requesting funding from our county commission to look at that. There's a new addition to the 5-year building plan, and that is a new elementary school that is looking like it is possible on a property that we are looking to purchase as well, that we're currently under contract for, but waiting some final tests. That elementary school would hopefully open within the next 1 to 2 years, depending on final funding approval. And that would relieve overcrowding at both Blackman Elementary and Stewart's Creek Elementary, along with probably Browns Chapel and some other areas. So thankful the board has looked into that and highly supportive of that plan.
When we talk about a 5-year building plan, the board reviews this at least once a year, and it's always kind of an adjustment based on growth, right?
Correct. So we review this every year and pass a new one, just as a kind of a heads up to our funding body, our county commission, of what are we looking for. Over the next year, we hope to have a more robust plan so that we're not, yes, we'll make minor revisions every year, but we also need to be more forward thinking so that over the next 10 years, here's what we're looking like to need in our different areas of the county.
And that'll help us with some of that rolling planning that we
Absolutely.
have to do.
Yeah, and ultimately this should help. We do, as part of this building plan, also have a zoning study that is in the middle of progressing right now, where we have a company visiting all of our schools. So hopefully with the addition of buildings, possible some rezoning in the future, not this next school year, we will be able to eliminate that parent possibility of being rezoned every 1 to 2 school years.
The other thing that parents are probably going to hear a lot about is the word, it's a very weird word, TISA,
Yes.
or TISA.
Yep.
It's pronounced 2 different ways, but what is that?
Yeah, so that is our new funding formula from the State Department and from our General Assembly. So it stands for the Tennessee Investment in Students Act, and it is a new way you may have heard, or if you hear it's replacing something, it's replacing the BEP, which is the Basic Education Program, and that's just how school systems received money from the State Department. TISA is our new way that we will receive money because we are such a fast-growing district. We should receive more money from our State Department. And we have really 3 priorities that the board and I are discussing of what we're looking at with that funding. One of those is staffing, making sure that we are conducting a salary study right now. But as part of that, making sure we're recruiting and retaining and have a competitive wage in all of our areas. So that's step 1. Step 2 is really just kind of revamping how we look at alternative education and looking at other opportunities around behavior. I know that's been a national trend, and we're not immune to that as well, to make sure we want kids focused on learning, and we have to support students when they're not focused on learning and make sure that we have that balance between consequences and making sure students are ready to learn. So that'll be priority 2. Priority 3 will probably be around buildings and some of our campus improvements to make sure not just our new buildings, but also some of our older buildings are getting the attention they need.
Yeah, and just as a reminder, how many students did we add this past year?
This last year we added over 2,200 students. The average district size in the state of Tennessee is just over 2,800, so we almost averaged a normal-sized school district just in new students last school year.
So you mentioned the salary study, and if you would, tell employees especially, because I'm sure they keyed on that, or maybe people who are looking at coming into the profession, when will we start seeing maybe some of the results of that salary study?
I expect to start seeing some of those results within the next couple weeks. These will not go into place until next school year, and again, it is all ultimately dependent upon our school board passing our budget and then our county commission passing our budget. But we have had all of our employees, or most of our employees, were sent a job assessment tool over the last couple weeks to give us feedback on the different things of their job, just the day-to-day. We met with them as senior leadership in our central office. A couple principals met with them. Various classified staff met with our salary study vendor just to give us an idea of what is going on, what is some feedback. Couple things, just initial suggestions. Classified salary schedules. So whether it's our EAs, school nutrition, custodians, maintenance, we realize that's an area that we have to address. And so that has been a highlight that they are looking to focus on. couple areas there, making sure that we have a little bit more room so you're not waiting 3 years until you get a step increase. And then also making sure that our salaries, our hourly wages are in line with what they should be to make sure that we can attract and retain our employees. Certified as well, making sure that we are competitive, but also the possibility of not stopping at year 20 or 21 where our scale stops now, maybe branching that out to make sure we are keeping our more veteran teachers in the classroom.
Well, and that segues perfectly into this past Saturday we had our teacher recruitment fair, but it's not just one day. We have so many positions that are needed, our growth and all those things. Tell parents and those out there what we're looking for and some of the incentives we offer.
Yeah, so we have multiple positions open, and that's not because Rutherford County is an amazing place to teach and an amazing place to have a career. But for perspective, with adding 2,200 students last year, we added over 100 teaching positions. And so through natural attrition, retirement, people moving, and you add in 100 extra teaching positions, we have positions available pretty much in all areas, whether that is from an elementary classroom. We have a hard-to-staff bonus for math, science, social studies, English classes, special education, English as a second language. And if you have a bachelor's degree, we've done several stories about this. We also have opportunities for you to have that potential to get into the classroom to start in August. I mean, you can reach out to our HR department, and they'll be happy to give you information to see if that's a possibility for you.
Absolutely. And I just wanted to end today with a little bit about the testing season because we're on the edge of that. It started this week for some students, but when does it really kick in for others?
Yeah, we have some students are English as a second language students. So those students actually started taking an assessment this week. But for the majority of our students, including our English as a second language students, TCAP starts the second week of April. You will start to see us talking more about a benchmark. We'll have a benchmark test in March. From a director of schools perspective, I know those tests are very stressful, high stakes, but we want to make sure our students know that it's really about where they went from the beginning of the year to where they are right now, and ultimately where they get them in April. And so we've got a lot of time that our teachers will be working with our students. So we try to make sure that kids realize that that's just a one snapshot in history of where they perform on that day, and we have the utmost confidence that we'll be able to get them where they need to be.
Great. And so one last topic, and we're not going to cover it today, but we may be out of the season, out of the snow season. We didn't have a very harsh winter so far, but it's still February, and so there's still possibilities to have snow in February or March or even tornadic weather as we get into the spring. So we will have a special podcast edition coming out later this week where Dr. Sullivan and I are going to talk about how does that decision get made as to whether we have a full day off or 2 hours off, kind of the process that Dr. Sullivan goes through when making that decision. And so we encourage you to tune in because we know that's always a popular point of discussion. And we just want to kind of shed some transparency on that so that people understand kind of the processes behind those. So we appreciate parents and all that they do. And as always, thanks for tuning in. If there's ever anything you want us to answer for you, please let us know and we'll be happy to cover that in the future.
Happy to. Thank you.